we go.
It's time for Dart Talk. Brought to you by thedartzone.com. Stay in the zone. TheDart.com is an official Cosmo distributor and Windy City Fabricators, America's premier fabricators of orthotics and prosthetics. And Redwood Darts, America's newest tungsten darts. Stand straight and tall and hit them all. Redwood Darts. And now, here are your hosts, Mystery Mark and Steve P.
Okay, welcome to Dart Talk.
Welcome.
Another Wednesday.
Yes, it is.
Dart Talk brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
TheDartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Sorry about last week. Apparently, there were some glitches. The vagaries of
It happens every now and then.
iCast. Not really sure. I heard somebody said the website crashed at the end of the show.
That's what you just
we
told
didn't
me.
record the
Yeah.
audio. I don't know what happened.
I didn't hear that the website crashed. But
I'm sorry about the audio. I will have that up at some point, and you iTunes subscribers, it'll show up at some point. I didn't have a chance to get in here on Sunday. Something about a football game.
yeah,
So,
NFL playoffs.
and I got a lot of stuff going on. So, condo board meetings, and then somebody's trying to buy our building for like $50 million.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, until you don't really know somebody until you see them face to face with a gift horse. How many people, their first inclination is no,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a weird situation. So I don't know. I've been dealing a lot with that. How you doing?
I'm all right.
I heard you played.
I did. Dart League started last night.
Well,
Quite interesting.
how well? Do share. Disclaim first, and then share.
Disclaim first.
Right. Okay. Feel free to
The
disclaim.
views, opinions, rants, and rampages expressed on Dart Talk do not necessarily reflect individually or collectively those of our sponsors, co-sponsors, wannabe hosts, hearing-impaired critics, or those with a penchant for attitudinal dysfunction. We at Dart Talk strive to provide you, the listener, with an educational, entertaining, and fun-filled experience each and every week. If after the show you, the listener, find yourself feeling uneducated, unentertained, and or bored, we at Dart Talk consider that your own problem.
And of course, as always, we wish you luck with that.
So, I mean, obviously, I haven't been hitting the practice board as much as I would like.
You're not really a practicer.
I used to be.
You used to be.
I used to be all the time, but yeah, time constraints, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I had a buddy in town. He was in town for work for tomorrow, and so we went out to the place that we were playing and had dinner. And so he stuck around and watched, and I played a few matches, and I wasn't throwing well, but I had explained to him that I said I can't follow through all the way to the board. I can feel it.
Yeah.
And my darts are just floating. You know, they would just float and then drop, and they're just a big, huge arc. And when I concentrate on it, but for some reason the aspect of concentrating on it and then the actual aspect of throwing it doesn't work all the time. So anyway, unbeknownst to me, he videotaped me in my cricket singles match, and showed it to me when after the match was over, and it's blatant.
Yeah.
My arm just stops.
Yeah, it's almost like I don't know, not a 45-degree angle, but
Right.
I mean, it's not the way I've seen you play.
I like my setup and everything, and then all of a sudden I just go like this.
Your setup reminded me very much of Gary Anderson.
All right.
And, you know, I've spent a lot of time on the board in the last 3 weeks or something, and one of the things I've been doing is trying to imitate some of the guys I see.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Gary Anderson's got a very simple way of playing. And basically, the easiest way to describe it is he brings the dart back below his eye and then straightens his arm.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things, we were kind of talking before the show, and I'm like, there's a couple of things you could do to fix that. The causes from it are partly physical and partly mental.
Oh, sure. I totally
Right?
agree with that.
When you're not in playing shape
Mhm.
and the lactic acid starts to build up in your arm, like it does in any sport,
Sure.
it makes it harder to straighten things.
Yeah.
The other thing is like the internal pressure that you put on in your head because now you're aiming and you're trying to hit something.
Oh, you almost,
tenses everything
you're
up.
almost willing the dart to go in because you know you're not. I mean, I missed about at least 9 straight darts just to hit one single 16 in the one leg, and then all of a sudden I get up there and I had a lead in that leg, but I still didn't relax enough to just throw the dart at the 16. But then the next leg I had another lead, and I walked up there and somehow I relaxed and I threw the darts the way I wanted to, and trip 16, trip 15, and
Yeah.
it's like, and you know it, you can feel it, and you know that's what I want to do, but then the other 9 darts in between those, you don't do it at all.
I mean,
Or that's what I struggle with.
I totally hate this guy, but I was watching Major League Network today, and they were interviewing A.J. Przinsky.
Okay.
I've always hated that guy. I will buy Michael Barrett a beer if I ever run into him in a bar
Okay.
for just smacking him right in the jaw. But he said something that was like quite brilliant. And because they were saying, you've been doing so well. He's hitting the ball really well, and he's almost 40.
Right.
He's hitting it better than he did when he was 30. And they asked him about that, and his answer was, well, when you're younger, you think you can hit everything, and you get frustrated when you miss, and then you try harder, and that just makes it
Sure.
more difficult. So he's like, when you get older, you realize that what you need to do is try easier. And I was like, well, now that is a great concept because, when you're playing darts, the harder you try,
Yeah.
the worse results you
Yeah.
get. Then
And then it's a downward
and then
spiral.
you put a couple on the wire, and then you start getting frustrated and
Yeah.
you tighten up and stuff. If you can tell yourself to just try easier, and add a little nonchalance, they tend to go in.
Mhm.
The by the way 180 when you're out of sight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, what do I care? So the leg's over anyway. It's target
Well,
practice.
yeah,
and
or
then,
it's
you know.
not even that. It's like it's a lot of times that you're going for bullseyes, and you miss the first 2, and so you just throw your last dart at points, and you just go, oh, by the way, I'm going to throw it to 20, and it goes into the triple. It happens all the time.
I have absolutely had people wanting to rip my
Yes.
head off for the like, oh my, all I need are bulls, and then I miss and I miss, and I
you
look at
just
the
go-
score, and I'm like, well, 20 will help.
Yeah.
And then boom, you hit the triple.
And you throw the
You don't even need
perfect
it.
dart.
Yeah. And then they're looking at you like, you
I know.
right? And what can you do? I mean, it's one of those things where trying easier
Right.
and adding that little nonchalance can help your performance.
Mhm.
The mental aspect of like, because you're not playing a lot, and it's one thing to just kind of step in front of the board and try to get loose, but now you're playing for real, and immediately the average player will immediately start doing something differently than they were warming
Well, sure,
up.
because when you're warming up, yeah, you're practicing and you're throwing it while you're aiming at, but when you get into the game and all of a sudden the guy opens up with 420s,
Pressure.
and you need to hit at least 319s just to get the number closed. This is cricket, obviously. At least 319s, or if you're playing 501 and the guy opens up with an 83, you're telling yourself, I mean, if you don't even hit a 60, if you go up and throw a 26, you're behind the 8 ball. So, yeah, you immediately put pressure on yourself, especially when you're not throwing well. But it all comes down to practice. I mean, I need to practice.
Yeah, well,
You still need to get into the competitive aspect of it
just
to
to
get that mental hump. But,
in order to keep your arm
Mhm.
like dart ready,
Yeah.
you need to be in front of the board and at least like throw 5 minutes a day or something. Which is pretty easy to do.
Right.
Like you got something on the stove, go throw 10 bowls
Mhm.
until you hear the ding or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just kind of keep your hand in and keep your mind on playing. I think that's like infinitely helpful. The stuff I've been doing lately with the practicing is like I've been going like overboard.
HGH is the answer, apparently.
HGH, yeah. Helps your eyesight.
Windy City darters don't test.
If you're using performance-enhancing
I'm not
drugs
injured,
in
though.
league darts, then you also need a shrink.
Yeah.
Because you're not playing for anything. I mean, the
Right.
league we have, there's no money in it.
Mm.
I mean, you playing for fun,
Right.
and that's what most people are doing anyway. So that's kind of funny. But I've been experimenting with grips, and I went and I tried Taylor's grip. I tried Van Barneveld's grip. Adrian Lewis. I wish I could do. I can't really get his deal. I like the way he does it, but
when you practice a grip, though, how many hours do you have to spend till you think it's good or bad?
Look,
for
I
you?
mean, I'm only practicing these grips, and practicing is probably not the right word. I'm experimenting with different grips because what happens is I'll do that for like 10 minutes. I'm going to try Barney's today, and I'll do it for 10 minutes because what happens is when I go back to throwing with my grip,
right.
I can feel it better.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So
Sure.
as a field player, what I'm trying to do is get everything right
Get
off
back
the bat.
to your natural
Yeah. So
throw.
and because I changed my darts and now I have longer points, that affects my grip. You're laughing already. They mocking me in the chat room.
No,
there?
the HDH reference was back all the way back to the Daniel Murphy reference in the playoffs. That gave me a chuckle.
Oh, he's with the Nationals now. So I don't know what the Met fans are going to say about that.
But no, yes.
They didn't seem to have any interest in keeping that guy.
No, they had none.
Even and they were saying in the press, yeah, we don't care if he's hit homers in 6 straight games. We're still not keeping him. And I'm like, how bad is he at defense? He's got like one of the lowest strikeout rates and the highest contact rates in baseball, and you don't want him.
Right.
So what do you want? I
don't
just rhetorical
Well,
question.
before
I
the
don't know.
playoffs, so he had the lowest strikeout, highest contact, but he was still only hitting 230, 241 or something.
Oh, well,
You know.
that's not very good.
No. You just put it all together.
They took
But anyway.
Schwarber's ball down.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah, they're not saying where it is, so somebody wrote that Indiana Jones is going to rip it off and put it in a museum
Nice.
or something. But
Anyway,
we
that's why I
digress.
was laughing. So
Yeah, so with the grip thing, and I've experimented with a couple of other things too, but
you're not really anticipating a change. You're just doing
Well,
it to.
I've always thought that my grip was a weakness and not really a strength, and so some of the grips I see make sense to me on one level, but and then I try them out, and on some of them, I'm able to keep the dart pretty good in the air. But if you see my darts in the air, especially now that I'm practicing again, I mean they are nice and straight. They are straight from the minute they leave my hand to the minute they get in the board, and when they miss, they're not missing by much. So I'm kind of happy about that. But the like the picture of the 1080 I showed you or I sent you, that was a pretty one.
Right.
I was like, man, look at that center cut, all 3 evenly spaced out. I was like, I thought that would inspire you. I don't think it did.
Well, I was at work. It didn't inspire me to all of a sudden go to a board because I
Well,
was busy.
It isn't so much that. It's like I'm trying to get back to the way I was when I first started playing, and I'm trying to remember what my mindset was like. And one of the things, because I went ape, when I started playing, that's all I really cared about. Keeping your head in the game, like Robert Redford in The Natural, right?
Yeah.
Well, my head was always in the game. It is important.
Sure.
Right? Keeping your head right, under match conditions is one thing, but just keeping your mind on the game and having odd thoughts about it during the day while you're doing something else, I think helps you maintain your
I can see that.
dartability,
Yeah.
so to speak. I don't know, that maybe sounds a little bit strange, but look at a baseball pitcher, look at a starting pitcher who's only going to pitch every 5th day. They do their side work and they're running and all this stuff, and they're preparing their arm for the next match. Everybody assumes it's darts, so you don't have to worry about your arm, and you really kind of do. And you're getting older now. You're not like
Right.
me. What am I, 28? I mean, you're getting up there now.
I got a few years on you.
Yeah, so I tell people my age and they freak. Did I tell you about the Starbucks guy?
No.
It was last week. Sometimes I'll stop and get a Starbucks on the way in for us to do the show here in the studio. And by the way, we will be getting the Lakeside later in the show.
Oh, actually, you did tell me about the Starbucks guy.
Right? So
About the
I
shaving?
go in there, and I'm in there at most twice a month.
Right.
right? And there's one little girl barista that kind of recognizes me because, when I was coming in the studio more often, I was in there more often. And so she just seemed to always be in there when I was in there. So I go in there last week, and there's some guy that I've seen there maybe twice in 2 years. And, I'm getting my coffee, and they're out of half and half. So I have to go and say, hey, you're out of half and half, and give him the empty pitcher. And he's bringing me the pitcher, and then he stops, and he just stares at me, and I'm like, what do you want, a tip? I mean, cough it up, dude. And he's like, wow, you look a lot younger. You shaved. And I'm like, he's like, I don't mean any offense or anything. And I'm just like, will you give me the half and half? And thank you very much.
My coffee's getting cold.
But it occurs to me that, like, I look younger.
Most people do, without facial hair.
Do you? Because
Yeah.
you used to have a goatee all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, I don't know. Everybody's wearing beards now. All the baseball players and stuff. I don't
it's the thing.
really. I don't understand that. But okay, go ahead and have it. Some of them look terrible. I don't know. Is it Brian Wilson started this stuff, or I don't know what it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, ultimately, hockey started it.
Well, they do the playoff beards,
Right.
but that's like a.
But then Brian Wilson took that into baseball. And
But they
then
have it year round. I mean,
James Harden took it into basketball.
he
and they
looks
just-
terrible.
Yeah. I know.
The guy looks. He looks like some sort of nightmare. I
Right.
swear.
I don't know if they do it for that reason.
I
Some
don't know.
intimidating factor they believe they get out of it. I don't know. But
It's not intimidating if you're going to make yourself ugly for me.
Right.
I'm not going to be intimidated by that. If you're going to break your own nose and bleed, okay, then I'll be like,
Yeah, I don't
okay.
necessarily get it either. But
yeah, I don't know.
on the other hand, I can't grow a full beard like that. So maybe
Yeah, I can't either.
since I can't
I
do
can't do it on my cheeks.
Maybe I'm jealous. I don't know.
I have a brother that can. He does a good. I have a brother that does a good playoff beard, but my other brothers, nah,
Yeah.
nothing on the cheeks. It's
So-
sad. No sideburns, no handlebars. It's sad. Where are we on time? Should we take a break?
Yeah,
Come
we
back,
should-
talk
we should take a
Lakeside.
break.
I will try to get Jeff Smith on the show. If he's heard the last couple shows, maybe he won't come on. If we were
Maybe
were we
not.
that bad to the BDO?
No.
I didn't think we were. But we're going to try to get Jeff on next week, and we will recap his exploits at Firmly Green at Lakeside after this short break. You're listening to Dart Talk with Mystery Mark. Steve Poncelmo will be right back.
That didn't work.
The views and opinions expressed on Dart Talk are those of the hosts. They in no way should be misrepresented, misinterpreted, or made to claim that the universe is against you, your family, your city, or the darting community at large.
Hey, back for the second quarter of Dart Talk, brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
TheDartZone.com is an official console distributor Before we talk Lakeside, somebody in the chat was asking about Adrian Lewis's grip.
Yeah, a couple things. One is Barney says muscle memory is the key, which I totally agree with, which means it's my point of I need to practice more. You know, it's just like golf. You know, you need to get that muscle memory where it's just repetitive.
Well, yeah, you do, but then you also have to be in condition to execute and let your muscles execute. So if you don't do a proper warm-up and all this stuff and you start locking up, you know, your muscle memory isn't going to do you much good. Right. So,
but somebody was basically question, what about Adrian? You mentioned Adrian Lewis's grip. That was difficult?
Yeah, well, it's hard for me, and maybe because I have longer fingers, but so I'm kind of doing this in front of the camera. What Adrian Lewis does is he puts the dart kind of and pins it on top of his thumb, right? And then he rolls it back as he's coming back and then comes through. And I cannot roll it like him. But the thing that I like,
these fingers out of the way.
What do you mean? It's like he's almost got a karate chop.
Okay.
And he's holding the dart kind of here, and then he rolls it back like this and throws it. It's hard for me to do, but somebody tried to teach me that when I'd been playing darts for like 3 weeks. And they're like, that's the best way to throw. And I'm like, seriously? It's like this weird little karate chop. So, but when you think about it, that is a dart motion.
Right.
It's like and if you look at Lewis, I mean, he is like, boom. You know, he's accelerating all the way through on his forward stroke. So, and he's reaching like his max velocity right as he's releasing it. So it's really nice to watch. And I've seen him play in person. And he makes it look really easy. He's extremely fluid. He does it the same way every time. Plays with a lot of confidence. I like Anderson's approach. Like if I was going to show somebody a tape of how to play, Anderson just kind of stands there and just straightens his arm. And the dart is out and it's in. I mean, he doesn't do any. He kind of brings it back and he holds it in his two fingers and then kind of boom. And then he's another one with he's using the middle finger along the edge of the point. It's kind of weird because it looks to me like he gets his dart a little out of shape. In terms of it doesn't look to me like Anderson's point is pointing at his target when he's all the way back.
Okay,
it's kind of weird to tell sometimes, and I've seen other people that kind of do that where the dart isn't really. I think Stephen Bunting is one of these guys where when he brings the dart back, it's not pointing at the target, but he still hits it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what manipulations he has to do to get the dart flying correctly.
Right.
I don't wiggle in the air. My dart flies real straight like an arrow.
Some
of these guys they kind of go in at an angle and everything.
And I've seen people do this before, and I never understand how, but they bring the dart back like this.
They bring it sideways around their face, and then Jeff Morris used to do that. And I'm sure he still does.
See,
I wouldn't.
You could do that.
Well, look, I mean, that's the Jim Furyk side of darts, where if you do it the same way every time, as long as because by the time you. In effect, all you have to do is get it back to this spot before you release it. So if you did it... It's like in a golf swing, the only thing that really matters is the 4 inches your club is traveling behind the ball and then the 4 inches after. And a dart stroke's kind of the same thing. You see people kind of chicken wing. As long as it's straight to the target all the way through when you're releasing it, then it just strikes me as being an unnatural way to throw. Right?
Right.
So that's what that's all about. So I couldn't. I have a hard time imitating Adrian Lewis. I can imitate some of the other people. So I've tried like 4 or 5 different grips, and some of them I can actually. The dart looks good in the air, and I threw like a ton 80 using, I don't know whose grip. I've tried all sorts of different things, just monkeying around, and I'll do that for like 15 minutes, and then I will, then my grip kind of it just feels better. So. That was kind of what the deal was with that. Let's run through real quick. When last we were here, Lakeside was going into, I think, round 3 or round 4. So Thursday.
Day 6.
Yeah, I think Larry was out, and Dave Cameron was out. But Jeff Smith was still going.
Right.
as of last week. So Thursday's matches, you have to go down for day
You
6.
said I had to start up.
Well, no, they're below the.
Oh, you said they were above.
No, I think they're below.
All right. You want to run through them all?
Yeah, sure. Why
well,
not?
you got the youth final. There's the first one on there where Joshua Richardson beat Jordan Boyce.
Averaged about a 75, did he?
Yeah.
Young lad. Okay.
75 and 68.
Yeah, somebody posted
69.
on one of our videos, or I think it was last week's show. Somebody posted that the BDO was the CFL compared to the NFL.
Yeah.
Which, okay. I guess if you
It's
can't
an
make it in the
opinion.
NFL, you
Right.
could go play in the CFL. I mean,
Right.
they play different. The fields are different size
Yeah.
and everything. I mean, it's
Different
rules. Yeah. I thought that was kind of interesting, though, so thanks. You guys can post what you want on the videos. Just keep it clean so I don't have to go deleting it because I'm not sure how.
Anna Louise Peters won 2-1 over Zoe Jones. They don't have these in any order. So Mark McGeeney lost to Scott Mitchell 3-4, 4-3 for Scott Mitchell.
Good averages there, over
Yeah.
90. Yep.
Trina Gulliver beats Lisa Ashton 2-1. Eileen DeGraff beats Anka Zylstra 2-1. Martin Atkins loses 4-0 to Richard Venstra.
Venstra averaged 91 and change.
Yeah. Lorraine Winstanley loses 2-0 to Detta Hedman.
Detta Hedman. She's been around forever. Great
Yeah.
player.
And then Scott Waits wins 4-3 over Gert DeVos.
And he
Scott
averaged
threw about 91.
About a 91, a little
Yeah.
under 91. Okay.
Gert was
Yeah, it seems
far
to me
under
that
that.
it seems to me the top players in the BDO are averaging around in the low 90s at best.
Yeah. All right, so then you go to day 7, which is Friday. Wesley Helms loses 5-1 to Jamie Hughes. Jamie
Good averages
pretty-
there. 1,
threw
2,
pretty well.
3, almost 94 for Jamie Hughes there.
Scott Waits wins 5-4, another tight match over Glenn Durant.
Yeah, so what is that? They're both averaging like around 94 and
94,
change.
95 almost.
Yeah. That I wonder how many people thought that was going to be the final.
That had to be a good match.
Yeah. Going all the way down to the end there.
Detta Hedman wins 2-0 over Ann Louise Peters. Same averages, a little over 75. Jeff Smith probably threw one of his average-wise worst matches. He wins 5-2.
Yeah, he's just barely a tick under 90.
Dennis Harbor, he was consistently
Harbor
throwing
averaged
30 or 31
Yeah.
or 90, 92.
Well, he was right around over
And
90.
Harbor
but this
throws-
guy averaged almost 95.
Yeah.
He must have just absolutely stunk on
He
doubles.
must have.
To only win 2 sets?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trina Gulliver wins 2-1 over Eileen DeGraff. And
I think it's Aileen.
Aileen
Yeah.
DeGraff. And Richard Venstra wins 5-3 over Scott Mitchell.
Yeah, so
Day 7.
Good level of play, averaging around 90.
Yeah.
And we were kind of talking about that last week. Like, what does an 85 say to you? Not a whole lot, but 90, now you're kind of like, all right. And then some people are getting up to 95. That's a pretty good standard.
Sure.
I mean, there were guys in the PDC that didn't average 95. There just weren't that many. But I don't see anybody averaging 110, 107,
No.
and all that stuff. Yeah. All right. Where are we?
So now that gets us to day 8 into the semifinals for the men and the finals for the women. Trina Gulliver takes the women's finals 3-2 over Detta Hedman.
Should you be mentioning that she's an MBE?
I don't know.
That's
Should I?
member of the British Empire.
Oh.
That is,
Maybe I should be then.
I don't think you get a Sir. Like your Sir Richard Burton now when you're, I don't know if MBE is at that level, but it's quite an honor.
All right.
I'm not English. Anybody in the chat room that knows if you're supposed to say Sir Trina, and then if it's a woman, do they even do
What? Yeah.
knighthood? I don't. We could Google that on the break or something. I'm not really sure how that works because I thought like they were going to give it to Phil Taylor, and then they didn't because he got into this thing. like some sort of sexual harassment thing or something years ago. Something
Okay.
like that.
So then your men's semifinals, Scott Waits dismantles Jamie Hughes 6-1. Throws 91.
Yeah.
91 and change. Huge.
92
Jamie,
and change.
Jamie
Yeah.
didn't seem to bring it.
He didn't bring it. Bring it, Jamie. Come on.
And
Jamie.
then Jeff Smith also wins 6-5 against Richard Venstra.
Now, we actually watched the end of that match.
Yes.
What did you think of the lad, Jeff Smith, the Canadian?
Well, I definitely think he threw well. It was pretty impressive. I mean, you throw a 10-darter in the final leg with a chance at a 9-darter after your 7th dart. He missed his 8th. But the other guy, I mean, his opponent is just hanging right there with him.
After 12 darts, he's sitting on
22.
22.
Yeah. And Jeff's sitting on 20. So, I mean, even after 9 darts, his opponent was on 150. So he's got somewhat of an out.
I don't get going for triple 18 when you're on 72, but as it turned out, it
Well,
didn't matter. And then, Jeff's idea of 141 is trip 19, trip 16,
Mm-hmm.
double 18.
Yeah. You said he likes double 18s. But, I mean, like,
We're in the car. We're coming to the studio.
The bottom line is though, it's like, you know, it doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you get there.
We're driving to the studio, and I'm trying to describe to Mark this match because he hadn't seen it, and I hadn't seen it either, but I read the score sheet, so I'm like, well, he threw a 121, so I'm thinking he must have, like, his 7th dart was a fat one, and he just stayed on the 20, right? And we're trying to figure out, well, maybe he hit
Maybe he went for the 19.
triple 7,
yeah.
going for the 19, and then a lot of it. And so now we're both watching it for the first time, and I'm like, trip 19 and then 4 16s. That's a 121. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. Well,
so
then the match
Jeff does some
before it-
things that I would never occur to me.
The match
It's like
before
he's
he's
part
got
Dutch.
65, and the camera's solely
Oh
focused
yeah,
on
that
the
was
bullseye.
hilarious. Yeah, the leg before.
And the announcer says, "Okay, 25," and all of a sudden,
You just
he's
see
got
you just see
65.
his flight, and then the next thing you know, there's a dart in the double
the announcer
four.
has to go. He says something like, "Okay, now for 25," and then he goes, "Oh, double 8 or double 4 left because he pounded the trip
Right.
19."
That was funny. It was just sort of like, Jeff faked out the camera. Now on 65, I mean, I actually stopped going for the bull a couple of years ago.
I don't necessarily think you should go for the bull either.
Triple 11 works good. On 65, I think I learned that one from Bill Davis. But going for the 19 on 65
To leave yourself
to
double
leave
8.
yourself double 8, I don't really see why you would want to do that unless you love double.
double 4.
Excuse me.
Maybe.
Well,
But it seems. I mean, obviously, in the final one, the one he won it for the semifinals. He left himself double 10. If he likes the right side of the board, he likes double 18s. Obviously,
yeah,
he's trying to set him up for that. So if he likes the right side of the board,
yeah. I mean,
then that's what he does. But at least
68 left going for the
triple
16.
19,
I don't really
you're
see.
leaving yourself the normal outs of 32, 16.
Well,
82.
yeah.
So even though you skip all the way to 8.
I guess
But-
if you're on 68 with one dart in your hand and you throw the single 16, you're on 56, and he can throw like a high 20,
Right.
and then get his double 18.
Mhm.
It's just a lot of work. It's a lot of extra work
But on
to
the
set
other
up
hand, he
double 18.
Right.
If that's
But on the other hand, he didn't have to move because he was already throwing at the 16s anyway. Even though even though he did move because he missed the triple 16, went away from the board because he blew his 9
because that
darter.
was his 8th dart. But
Yeah.
he threw 7 straight triples,
right,
a fat 16, a trip 16, and left himself on a double.
and hit it on the first dart.
His opponent's he needs a 150
Mm-hmm.
to stay in the match, and his first start misses the 20. And
Yeah.
he throws 2 triple 18s, and I'm like, well, I don't think it's gonna matter. And first start in the double 10.
Yeah.
And Jeff goes into the final. After trading legs and trading sets with this guy for an hour at least, I'm thinking maybe more like an hour and 15 minutes. That's a heck of a way to win it.
Mm-hmm.
You hold your throw, and now you break him with a 10-darter. I mean,
Yeah.
that's world class. That is a
I mean,
world
you know,
class
yeah.
way to finish a match. A 10-darter.
To me, it was more the most impressive part about it was the other guy was he's throwing 7 marks. He's right in the match. I mean,
Yeah, he's playing good.
Yeah.
I mean, he's missing. It's so weird. I mean, you're playing so well, the darts that you miss really stick out. Like he started that set with a fat 1 and then went down to the 19s and went triple.
Mhm.
So he
Right.
ended up, he shot a 115, which is good, but it's not a 140. And then Jeff parks his first ton 80 in there, and now you're behind.
Yeah, but then the guy goes and throws a ton 40.
No, I think he threw like a
I thought he did.
96.
I thought he threw a ton 40 because he just missed the ton 80 because he answered.
Yeah, you're right. He did. He threw a
answered
ton
with
40.
2 straight 20s.
Yeah.
And just went under, and he almost answered Jeff's first.
Right, he threw a ton 40
Yeah.
to leave 246,
Mhm.
and then he threw a 96 to leave 150, and he couldn't take out the 150.
Right.
He's out of the tournament. Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, what a great match, and we'll definitely have to ask Jeff about that. Now, the final, I don't know if you have the stats there. Maybe I have them. It was kind of disappointing. I think Jeff would have to say he didn't play as well. He still averaged, well, that's his lowest average of the tournament. 1-3. He only averaged like about an 87. Do you have the totals on the here? Maybe I got them here. I mean, it looked to me like he got badly outplayed, but that doesn't always. 25, 21, 5-ton 80s, 6-ton 80s. Yeah, he got outscored a little. I wonder if his
Not much.
finishing. I didn't have a chance to really look at this. I wonder if his finishing was.
I mean, technically,
subpar.
well, so Scott threw 579 darts and Jeff threw 578. Right? Is that what that says?
Is that what that says?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, then
That's
obviously somebody hit more doubles.
right.
I mean, he only, they played 36 legs, and he lost by 6 legs, but he lost by 5 sets. So
Yeah.
those, the fifth set or the fifth leg in a set was not going
almost every
Jeff's
time,
way.
right.
Was it almost every one, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's weird. I mean, it's probably his biggest payday in darts.
No, all but one went 5.
All but one went 5 sets.
Yeah.
So, or 5 legs. So I mean, he's got to be feeling good about the tournament. He ended up he'll be back next year, right? He was back this year for making the semis last year.
Right.
So he made the semis again. So this time he even did better and did the final. So he'll be back. That's great for Canada because now Canada gets another player in there,
Okay.
right? Because if he has to qualify, and I don't know, you can't take that many people from
Right.
Canada, right? So Canada is getting
They
an
still get a
extra
qualifier.
player.
Right.
So that's a great thing. And it was Dave Cameron 2 years in a row. So he's even got a traveling buddy and somebody to practice with. So good for Jeff. He's a nice guy. We'll have to try to get him on the show next week.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break, and we'll come back and talk about some other stuff. You listen to Dart Talk with Mystery Mark, Steve P. Back in a minute.
Dart Talk agrees to adhere to the Geneva Convention in treating fairly its prisoners in their war against lackluster darting administration and behaviour.
Okay, back for the second half of Dart Talk, brought to you by the Dart Zone.
Stay in the zone.
TheDartZone.com is an official Cosmo distributor. So what was in the chat there? Somebody was talking about
Somebody asked why do
PDC
all
players
PDC
go
players
bull.
go for 25. Other than the answer in the chat was because they know better.
See, I started getting annoyed because I think at one point, and this was a few years ago, like 5 straight times I was on 65 and I hit the double bull. And I started thinking,
That would be my question, especially when you're the level I am. Most likely you're not going to hit the double bull, but you can hit the bull. So I can see going for 65. But when you become an upper echelon player where you're very good at double bulls and you're going for double bulls at 82.
Your
85.
muscle memory tends to stick it in the double.
Right.
I have to really concentrate on the green
So
to throw a single. And
right.
then there's wire there.
And you have that smaller area you have to
Yeah.
hit. So why would you take the chance of hitting a triple instead?
Well, that's a good point. I mean, you look at a guy like Jeff Smith who has his own way of doing things, and it works for him. I don't think you can really criticize him. I think, what I did was, I would kind of calculate the percentages. And at some point on 65, I started to really like the 1111 because I like double 16.
Sure.
Right? So you're setting up tops going for the bull. Okay, I get that.
With 2 darts.
Yeah,
right.
but I think I've always thought that you have a bigger margin for error going for the double 16 than you do for the double 20, especially if you're the kind of player like me who's relatively straight, but, I tend to miss high or low. For years,
Right.
I very seldom, like if you saw me play a 1, you very seldom saw a 1 or a 5.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a very straight player. That being said, it never would have occurred to me to go for a 19 there. But
Right.
Again, if all you want to do is throw it double 18, you're going to do a lot of things differently, right? So I don't know. I don't think there's much of a percentage in it. I don't think I would, suggest that to anybody that wasn't like a 19 shooter.
I think it goes back to what you want to do though. But I mean, like even from a novice aspect, if you're going to throw whether it's trip 19 or trip 11 to leave yourself whatever instead of the bullseye, if you miss the bullseye on 65 and fall into a 3, now you've screwed up your 2 darts.
You're going to need a double bull to win.
Right, but if you fall into a single 19 going for the triple 19 or a single 11, you still have 1 dart and a double.
Well, here you got a 2 dart out.
Right.
Okay. What's the easiest way to take it out for you? I would say go ahead and do it. I think that there's a certain element of risk going for the bull, to my mind, because there's so thick wire on the outside of the single bull.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that like totally hoses you. The other thing is when the way I look at it is I want to start at the top of the chain if I'm setting up a double. What I mean by that is I want to be on double 16 as opposed to double 8.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be on double 20 as opposed to double 10.
Sure.
Right? So if I miss it and I come up, I'm at the top of the chain. So I can go, 16, 8, 4, or I can go, 20 outside in, because
Right.
I'm not terribly fond of double 5. I mean, I'm working on it, but I'm not terribly fond of it. So I prefer double 16, which is, kind of the opposite of double 18.
Right.
I think it's easier to throw at the bottom of the board. We were talking about that before the show, and you're talking about you're having extension problems and you're when you're tight and when you're under pressure, the vast majority of players will miss low because they won't get their dart to the board. You can get it in the double 16 with a bad stroke much easier than you can on the double 20.
Right.
Especially if you're shorting it. Same with the
Sure.
double 18. If you're short in the
Yes.
double 18, you're going to end up in the 4.
Right.
And then you're in double 16 anyway.
Right. Well, that's why he says that a 25 is bigger than a triple, but I kind of disagree.
It
because
is bigger than a
the
triple.
surface area is, but the actual straight area, because if you miss to the right a little bit, you hit a double bull. If you miss to the right a little bit, you still hit the triple whatever you're hitting. So the actual area of missing, the whole round part is bigger, but when you're throwing a dart that goes straight and misses left or right or up or down a little bit, you have more area in a triple than you do that section of the circle. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I think it's weird because you have to subtract the double bull
Right.
when you're talking about what you're throwing at.
Right.
The double bull doesn't really help you because you're blowing by outs.
Everything.
Right?
You're back to
Not everything.
Well,
I mean, you
know,
could
but
throw
you're
a.
at 15.
You're at 25.
No, if you're 65, you have 15 left.
Oh, right. You're on 15. So you throw a 7 and you're on double 4.
Right.
Right? So you've blown by the first two high percent. I don't know when was the last time we said this. For the vast majority of darters, there are certain doubles that they're going to have a much higher percentage on. Right? I would say the vast majority of people have a higher percentage on double 16 than they do double 3.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And a much higher percentage on double 20 as opposed to double 19 because you throw at it more often.
Right.
And you're more comfortable with it and you're probably more confident with it. So when you're setting up outs, you don't want to blow by your highest percentage out. A PDC player's highest percentage out, I think the vast majority of them is tops.
Okay.
So it stands to reason that, okay, well, single bull tops.
Right.
There's your 2 dart
Sure.
out.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
Leaving 65 is a bad idea.
Well, sure.
Okay.
And
If you miss a dart and you're on 65, what can you do?
he says again, if I throw 25 darts at 25, then 25 at a triple, I will hit the 25 way more times. But
You have to subtract the times you hit the double.
yeah, or subtract the times that you hit the 3 going for the bullseye.
Yeah, you would have
and
to
and
you're turning a 2 dart out into a 2 dart out if you miss.
right.
Right? Same thing if you go for a triple. But what are you actually leaving yourself?
If
you
have
hit a
better
fat
chance of-
11, right?
Right.
The 11 and the 14 are right next to each other. So going for the triple 11, it's an easy clean.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Right? Even if you hit a triple 14, you're not dead. You're on 23.
Right.
Right? So what, you throw a 7?
Yeah.
And you're there.
Yeah.
And if you leak it into the 19, you still have a shot at a
Mhm.
double. So it's hard to hurt yourself going for the triple 11.
Right.
If you throw an 8, then you're on 57, and that's an easy clean.
Sure.
Right? You can go bull, double 16. No, just kidding. Well, and
But
you know,
I mean, it still goes down to what the player wants to do. I mean,
for anybody
if
who's
you're more comfortable throwing the bullseye in that situation,
any
that's fine.
any above average player, I think, would go for the bull with complete confidence.
Sure.
And like I said, I used to do it all the time. I just started hitting the double too often
Mm-hmm.
and leaving myself on 15. And on 15, what I generally do is I throw a fat 3 and I go double 6.
See, I think
'Cause
I
I
probably
think it's easier.
I probably did it for the opposite reason. I didn't hit the bullseye and kept hitting a bad dart.
Oh, okay.
And
so
so
you're
I-
missing the
I
missing the
changed-
single.
Instead of me constantly hitting the double, I was hitting and leaving myself a really hard 2 dart out
Yeah.
where you have to hit a triple instead of a single and a double. So, but same concept.
You're talking about, Jeff Smith's a world-class player, and, he wants to go for the 19. He fakes out the camera, and he hits it. That's win-win.
I know that's that's great.
That's win-win. We have to ask him
He
if he's
didn't
part
just fake
Dutch.
out the
but-
camera; he faked out the announcer. The announcer had to just
Well, yeah,
totally,
because
in a
look.
split second realize that the guy all of a sudden is going for double 4 now. Because he just had mentioned it was awesome.
Jeff will go for some unorthodox stuff. And if we can get him on the show next week, we can ask him about it. But again, it's one of those things where if this works for you,
Yeah.
then have at it.
I mean, if you can hit the hit the double 18 95% of the time you throw at
You
it,
should
why
set
would
it
you
up.
set it up?
Yeah, you should set it up. I just don't think that it's a very good idea for anybody. If it's there,
Mhm.
Like if you're on 56 and you want to throw a high 20 and go for the double
Stay
18,
up
yeah,
there.
sure, go ahead.
Right.
If you're on 72 and you want to go double on the 18, yeah, sure, go ahead. But you have to start throwing at some weird stuff
To get to that.
when you're under 200 to set up 36, and I don't see why you just don't like throw another couple trip 20s.
Mhm.
And then what does that leave you? I mean, if you're good enough to hit all this weird stuff, you're good enough to hit tops, right? I mean, but again, it's one of those
then
things
it gets to
where
that mental aspect and confidence. I mean, at the very end of it.
yeah, it's he's obviously and I've seen Jeff play cricket. I mean, Jeff can hit any triple on the board. So it would have been nice to finish the match on a 9-darter, but a 10-darter is pretty cool. I just when I looked at it, I couldn't believe. I'm like, so that's his 121. I'm like, seriously?
Yeah.
I mean, I can understand James Wade. Like James Wade thinks his highest percentage double is double 10. So like on 68, he'll go trip 16 to set up double 10.
Right.
I don't. He's lefty, right? So double 10 is his equivalent of double 8,
Yeah. Right.
right? So okay, that makes sense to me. As a right-handed player wanting the right side doubles, no, I don't know. I just don't think I would never go out of my way to set up double 18. I've done it like in practice sessions where I'm playing somebody and I'm like, I'm going to set up double 18 every leg.
And wait, hold on. Now on this note, I've got a good one for you that I was trying to remember from league last night.
Oh, okay.
One of my teammates. 74.
Okay.
No, 84.
84.
84.
Oh, trip 16.
Throws
double
the trip
18.
18.
The trip 18.
Yeah. Hits it.
So he's on 30.
Yeah. Busts it. Does it again.
How does he bust it?
So he had 30. He hit his. I think he hit a single 15, and then I can't remember. You know what? I don't know. He hit a triple accidentally on his third dart.
Oh,
somewhere.
okay.
So he busted
Triple.
it. Yeah.
Going for a double?
Yeah.
All right.
Um,
So he busted it.
gets another whack at it. Goes for the trip 18 again. I'm sitting there watching this, going, "Oh my God! You just did it and left yourself 30. Why would you not realize that was a bad idea?" And you went up and you threw at the trip 18 again.
Is this the same guy on your team that I detest? Is it that guy?
I think so, yeah.
He thinks he knows.
Yes,
he thinks he
that's
knows
it.
everything. You
Yes.
can't tell him anything.
And literally, he really
And he's a
actually-
knucklehead.
He literally actually threw pretty well yesterday, for the most part. He won his singles match in 301 doubles because
the other guy couldn't hit the broadside of a barn.
he couldn't. He left himself double 1 and double 2 on 2 out of the 3 legs, and couldn't hit him. But
No.
but literally, I was like, okay, if you did the math wrong the first time and you throw at the trip 18 and leave yourself 30, and then you didn't clean it up, you busted. Why would you
Why on
go
earth?
something different?
Why on earth would you leave yourself?
Do it
Would you
again.
set up an odd numbered double?
I don't know.
Why on earth would anybody? I've seen guys. I know a guy actually. He's a pretty good player. When he plays 301, double in, double out, he comes in on the 15,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, all right.
Well, I don't
I-
think that's as bad as trying to come in on the 19.
There's a bunch of guys from Dice Den that used to do that.
Yes.
The whole team went in on the
Go
19.
19s, and I was like, that's at least on the 15s you can miss to the 10.
Yeah,
Possibly the
I
2.
just
If you miss on the 19s, you miss you're never in.
You're making the game hard on yourself,
I
but
don't know.
okay. I mean,
But anyway, I just sat there in disgust, going, "My God, this is my teammate. What is
Well,
he doing?"
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where, people play for fun. People want to play the way they want to play.
Sure.
So, I would, I'm trying to remember because I haven't played League in a while. I would try to explain to people what the percentages were, what the advantages were, and I'm always all about throwing at the biggest target,
Mm-hmm.
right? If you're on 46, shoot the 610 wire.
Right. Absolutely.
Okay, you're going to hit one of them,
Right.
and then you'll be safe.
48, 16, A-wire. Yeah.
If people try to set up 32 and go for the 14, and then they throw a 9, and then they miss their next setup dart, and it's like, okay, well, now you've wasted the entire turn, and you've cheated yourself out of a win because you didn't even get to a double. Do it the easy way.
Right.
All the doubles are the same size. So, I mean, that's the argument for, setting up 30. But why on earth, what is the advantage to
angle's
going
different.
at an odd number double? Because if you miss inside, you're done,
Yes. Right.
right? We all know what happens when, you throw a fat 5 and you're on 10.
Yeah. It's
You turned a 1 dart
awful.
out into a 2 dart out. So
Right.
you're going backwards.
right.
Not a good idea, especially for people that aren't that good to begin with.
Right.
Right? It's hard enough to hit, big numbers and big targets. Now I'm going to throw at the
Without
smaller
giving
one.
yourself another chance. Right.
Triple 16, double 18 will work on 84. I don't do it, but I just throw triple 20,
No, I would
double
still
12.
go trip 20.
Yeah.
That's what you're throwing at the whole game anyway.
I mean, maybe
But-
Jeff Smith goes
right.
double bull, double 17. I mean, I don't know. We'll have to ask him.
Yeah.
Remember when we
On 84, he's wondering how he can get to 36.
Remember we used to play that what was the thing where we would add you give somebody a number and how many darts are in their hand and what do they throw at? What do we
Yes.
call that? We haven't
God, that
done
was a
that.
long time ago.
Oh, yeah. That was like,
I do remember that, though.
it'd be like, okay, 3 darts are on 271. What do you do?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You go for the 19. Because you could throw a 101.
Okay. Right.
You go 4 19s in a bull, gets you to a finish.
Right.
If you throw a ton, you're on 171 and
And
you're not on a
good's
finish.
that- right.
Right. So we used to do stuff like that. I don't know why we stopped, but it was torturing some of the people that would call in. They would feel silly. What do you do on 90 with 3 darts? How many people do you see go
Depends
for
on
the
the
18?
score.
Yeah. Depends on the score. Why does
Well,
it
if your
depend on the
opponent's at
score?
300, why would you leave yourself a double bull if you hit 2 fat 20s?
Well, you go for the bull.
Oh, well, then, yeah, you would do that instead, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's
Yes.
sort of panic mode. You're going
Yeah.
for the
I
when the
got you.
guy's on
I
a
got you.
finish
Yeah,
and you
that-
want
right.
to go trip 20, now you're on double 15.
Right.
I mean, now you have to aim for the outer half of the double. So, cuz you can't miss inside. Right? So you have to imagine like an overlay of the double 15
But if you have
and
90
then move
and
it over to the
if
right.
you have 90 and your opponent's on 32, do you automatically always go for the double bull?
No, because
That's when you go for 20s.
That's when you go for 20s
because you've got to give yourself that last start
right.
opportunity.
The problem with going for the bull is you might have to go back at it and you
Right.
want a clean look at it.
Exactly.
So you can throw a single bull and obscure the double bull, and now
Yes.
what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You can go for
Right.
the triple 15, but if you single it, your lifesaver's the double bull, and you blocked it with your first start. So, if you're on a finish and I'm on 90, I think it's easier to go for the 20. And no matter what you hit, you're on a 2 dart out anyway. So, that's
Then-
not necessarily true if you
then-
miss the bull.
The other team was
Well, it is true.
then
But
the other team yesterday. The guy's got 60 left, and the guy is sitting over at the bar, and he's got to coach him. So
on
he's
60,
like, so he's got 60 left, and he's like, okay, go for the 20. So he says,
aim high.
He says you have 60 left. The guy throws a dart. It goes into the 1. He goes, you have 59 left. I literally went up to him and I said, you honestly have to tell him that? And he says, you know this guy. Yes, I have to
Who
tell
was
him.
it? Was it like Paul or something?
It was.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay.
He
I-
wants somebody to tell him what to
I
throw
get
at.
it, but really,
It's an embarrassment.
1 minus 60?
And you're in
Really?
like Division 2.
But he didn't tell him to throw it to 19. He told him you have 59 left. He did the math for him. He didn't tell him what to throw at. It was like, okay, now you got 59. I'm like, all right, I'm sorry. It's 60 minus 1. He might look at you and say, should I throw at the trip 19? That's fine if he wants somebody to tell him. You literally told him how to subtract 1 point.
Part of the skill to playing steel tip is being able to do the math.
I agree with that.
And, to have somebody doing the math for you should be banned. It shouldn't be allowed in Division 2,
Right.
right? I mean, it's one thing to, if you're playing doubles and your partner's telling you. I mean, there's a pretty famous pair of American pros that people would kind of snicker because the one pro was always telling the other pro what to shoot at because the other guy couldn't really do the math in his head fast enough to keep his
To
rhythm.
keep everything going
Yeah.
right.
So I mean, it makes it easier for the player if you just shout out what to throw at. But
Right.
so how many times do you see pros have like a little, senior moment or a brain fart or whatever and throw it the wrong double or miscount and bust something. And then they look sheepish and the other guy wins the leg. That's how it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the skill
Right.
is knowing
what
the score is.
Yeah.
And
knowing what you want to do.
Yeah.
If with whatever dart you hit,
yeah.
whatever you throw hits a certain number.
I mean, it's kind of weird because in most sports, there's a scoreboard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in darts, there's a scoreboard too. You can look and see what you're on, but it doesn't tell you what to throw at to take it out.
Right.
That's part of, what makes some players good. Look at Jeff. I mean, he's figured out all sorts of interesting ways to get to zero.
To get to, however
Right?
he wants
Zero,
to do it.
Zero's the goal. How many times this one doubles partner I used to play with, and I would be like, I'd be on a number, and I'm like, well, if I miss it, should I leave him on tops or you know what I mean? I mean, if I was just playing by myself, I set up 16, right? But I'm playing with this guy. Well,
now you got to stop and think what you want.
Okay. I'm like, well, what should I go for? He's like, I don't care. Just leave me on 0. And I'm like, got it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good advice.
Well, I used to overthink this stuff a little bit, but I would kind of go to the board in the morning and decide if it was a tops day or a double 16
you said
day,
that before, right?
And I would play accordingly. And I think it's still easier for the vast majority of people to hit the bottom of the board.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what they should be trying to do. I mean, love of my life is not very tall. And I tried to get her to become a 19 shooter and with no luck at all. It's closer.
Yeah.
If you're 5'3", the trip 19 is
a lot
closer than the trip 20.
Yeah.
And therefore, it's worth the 3 points. Become a 171 shooter and shoot a bunch of 133s and, but no, got to throw the 20. I mean, that's like any sport, you have to battle your own ego, right?
Yes.
And
True.
the people that do
is
that
right.
successfully succeed more often.
Yeah.
Your ego writes checks, your darts cash, right? I'm on 150. I'm going double bull.
Yeah.
Knock yourself out. Glory darts.
Right. On 50 to win the game with 3 darts in your hand, you're going double bull.
I know guys that do it.
I know.
And that's the enjoyment they get is to do the glory dart.
Oh, sure.
That's what gives them like a rush or enough pleasure, and that's why you play. Fine, do it. Okay?
Right. But
I like to hit.
Yeah.
I like to hit all sorts of goofy shots, but I don't. If I'm 100 yards in the middle of the fairway, I'm not going to turn my 7-iron upside down with a left-handed stance and try to get it on the green. I don't bother.
Close your sand wedge. The close face of your sand wedge. Do a half swing, low spinning shot.
Well, if it's windy.
Well, no, I know, but you're not going to just come up with something.
There's no reason to. But when I was younger, I used to like to try stuff like that, and I would literally kill myself. I'd be like, oh, you know what? If I just hit this high fade and I let the wind do this, and then I'd end up buried in a bunker, and I'd be like, well, that was stupid. What'd you learn from that?
Yeah.
Hey,
try that again.
How am I supposed to hit this? I can't even see my ball.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Darts, make it fun for yourself. You could email the show, darttalk@gmail.com, if you got a question. Hey, if I'm on this, what should I do? And we'll be happy to answer. But, if there's a way you like to play, I mean, go ahead and do it. The guy on your team, maybe he sat for an hour and a half with a piece of paper and decided that was the best way to do it. Or it was the only way he could figure.
Maybe.
Well, 54, okay, that leaves 30. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I just hate watching that. I wouldn't want to be around that.
He's smarter than that to just go, 30 is subtracted, 30 makes
honestly,
84,
to spend 40 or 50 hours a season playing with somebody like that would literally drive me crazy. Because there's a certain amount of that you're going to throw a lot like the darts you see all the time. Right? If you see a bunch of crappy darts every week, it's going to be hard for you to throw excellent darts.
Well, it's not.
You know what I mean?
Somewhat of to that. To me, it's more of people missing doesn't upset me. I miss, everybody misses.
Yeah.
It's not giving yourself the best chance of winning that upsets me, and to do things like that where, especially like you said, when he's a guy that thinks he knows everything and knows what's going on, and it's just like, okay, but every time I watch you do throw darts in situations like that, I'm like, but you don't know what you're doing.
You know what you should do with that guy? You should put him against the best player on the other team and let him get wiped out a few times.
Oh,
because then maybe he'll be like,
it won't bother him.
wow. Okay. Then have him play somebody who's better than him and also rude. I'm sure you got some people like that in the division. Right. No, because seriously, I mean, if you got a guy like that who's got a little bit of ability who could raise his game if he could get his head out of the way.
Sure.
And he apparently thinks he knows everything there is to know about darts, and he's not very good. So I would try to fix that because that would drive me nuts.
Yeah.
But the idea that you played at the level of the competition
sure.
that you're surrounded by every week, I think there's something to that. I think if you look at Adrian Lewis, came up playing with practicing with Phil, how did that not help him?
Mm-hmm.
Right? As opposed to him practicing with, I don't know, Helen Keller. Or
right.
What was Helen Keller's teacher's name? Sullivan? Annie? What was it? I can't remember. Or Ray Charles or whoever. Stevie Wonder.
Mm-hmm.
People that aren't very good. I mean, I don't think he'd be where he is now. How many finals? He's won 2 world championships and he's lost, 2 finals?
Mm-hmm.
That's 4 finals. I mean, that's pretty good. He's not even 30. So it'll be interesting. The Premier League is starting. We'll preview that next week. We'll try to get Jeff on.
We've flown over our third quarter.
So I kind of thought we might. That's why I said we were doing the second half.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have the audio from last week up at some point. Thanks for your patience. It's the Radiator. It's an old Chicago building. Don't forget you can email us. You can find us on Twitter at Dart Talk. We have a Facebook page. That's also Dart Talk. We have a YouTube channel, Dart Talk US, and a website, darttalk.us. So you can find the show in a variety of ways. You can email us anytime you like. I get back to people.
Yeah.
Right? I'm pretty good about that. Anything in the chat room to address before we wrap it up?
More.
No, did they all leave?
No.
We put them all to sleep?
Yeah, they're still there. They're just not chatting anymore.
Okay. Well, thanks, everybody, for chatting in and listening and tuning in, and we'll Dart Talk to everyone next week. Y'all take care.